Hey guys, and welcome back to our Radiant video series. We're excited to have a group of women on today. The first couple videos that we did, Britt and I just really walked you guys through our heart around Radiant. Next, we invited our speaker and worship leader that we had there to give you their perspective. And then today, we're so honored to have these women who actually attended the event. They all come from a little bit of different backgrounds and came for different reasons. And so we're really excited to for them to share what's on not only on their hearts, but just kind of the way God met them. And just as we continue, Britt and I continue to just build out whatever Radiant ministry and event looks like. We're just so thankful for these women because I think we've said it before on one of our recordings that Britt and I came in with an expectation to obey and to serve, but we were blown away by how much we were served and how much we received in the end, and just the way that God blessed our lives abundantly by entering in. And these women were part of that because the women who showed up, that volunteered and served, the women who showed up just for themselves to receive, were so quick to give back to us and to our volunteers. And just again, we've just loved seeing how God has worked just his hands through a bunch of women gathering together at one event that seemed in some ways from the world standards maybe so insignificant, but has just continued to pour out in just immense unexpected, immeasurably more, right, than we could have thought or imagined. So we would love to introduce you to these women and just kind of, they're going to share some of their perspectives with us.
Yeah, so I'll start with Jill. So Jill is here with us. So she is she's become a good friend. She's a client of mine. So Jill, do you want to talk a little bit about where you live and what prompted you to come to Radiant, and maybe some of your expectations that you had coming into Radiant?
Okay. I'm local here in Morton, Illinois. I started with Brittany, and she pretty quickly the ball started rolling. I was going to her for PT. Pretty soon the ball was rolling quick after I got on with her that she was talking about this event, and it was all new and everything like that. And I just kind of watched her go through that. And so as it approached, I just was like, I just don't know if this is my thing. I'll be the oldest person there, which I mean, there was others that were close to my age, so that was fine. But, kind of like, I don't know if this is for me. Is it more for young moms? For single, I just wasn't sure. But I did know I wanted to support Brittany in this new venture. A couple things, it was local, so that was not a problem. I did not mind that it was in February. I probably would go no matter when it was in the year. I love Eureka. It's a really neat little town that we came to. I grew up there, so that was special. I love the atmosphere of just the building of the cannery. It was very not rustic. I'm not quite sure exactly what the word is, but just very fun, kind of a fun venue. On my way there, I was a little nervous, which is surprising because I'm pretty outgoing. But I just prayed. I just like, Lord, put me I did not even know that there was going to be tables. But I had decided, because I was local, I was not going, I was going to try and sit with people I did not know.
And Jill, I think too, not to interrupt you, but I remember you talking,
No, no,
saying,
no. Go ahead.
are you gonna bring your
Yeah.
sister or somebody? I was like, are you
Right.
gonna bring somebody? And you're like, I think I want to do this by myself. And I thought that was pretty neat too, because
Mhm.
sometimes people, I think I would maybe feel similarly, but I
Mhm.
know sometimes it can be nerve-wracking to walk into something by
Mhm.
yourself, or you can't. So sometimes people will gather friends, which is also great. A lot of people did that too. But there also is kind of an expectation and a freshness, I think, that we have when we walk into it. We're like, okay, I'm doing this by myself. I'm forcing myself out of my comfort zone. I'm going to meet some people. And it, I think in ways, at least for me, it can allow you to open up maybe a bit more than you might
Yep.
if there were people there that you were sitting next to that maybe knew you in some capacity, but not another. And I think you probably ended up sitting next to some people that you knew loosely or
Hmm.
like
Hmm.
had known
New.
from
Right.
past, yeah.
Hmm.
But I just thought that was a cool perspective. You're like, no, I think I'm going to do this by myself. So I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah, it was a good experience that I did that because I feel like um, I was able to just not worry about my guest. I
Hmm.
felt like I kind of had responsibility if I brought my guests that they were comfortable, that they weren't feeling, so I'm like,
Yeah.
I just want to go by myself the first time. It's not to say I wouldn't do it, bring somebody another time, but I just was like, I really needed it individually. And so that's why I came alone. And then I had such a sweet table. Um, I just loved it from all different areas in the country. And um, I really appreciated that part of it.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, okay. So speaking of that, so you mentioned you had a lot of people from different parts of the country with you. So we also
Mhm.
have Jessica here with us, and Jessica did travel from out of town, out of state. So, Jess, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and where you're from, and yeah, what brought you to Radiant?
Yes, hi, I'm Jessica. I'm originally from California, but was living in Tennessee at the time, back in California now. And I know Emily through being a client of hers first, and now we've become friends and forever clients and friends.
Hmm.
And so initially I went to support Emily, but I also went for myself, kind of similar to Jill. I went totally by myself, didn't know anyone, which was nerve-wracking, but it was so healing and good for me to go by myself. I have two young kids, they're 4 and 6. And I haven't been away by myself. Like I got married to my husband right out of like right after we graduated college. I never lived by myself or went anywhere by myself. So it was like the first time in like, I don't know how many years that I was by myself. And so that was really good for me. And I was also freshly pregnant. I was 4 weeks pregnant, which is like super, super early. So it was just such a sweet time to like pray over my baby, to be super present, to go to the hotel room a day ahead of time to mentally, physically, spiritually prepare for Radiant. And then I just walked into the room like so fresh and ready to go and so expectant. And my expectations were blown out of the water. It was an incredible time.
Oh, I love that. And I would love to, Jess, I think it'd be awesome just to hear your perspective on this because we did have a lot of people that asked us to record it or stream it live. And because Britt and I, obviously, Britt does some virtual, but 100% of my practice is all virtual. And so we had kind of talked like there, I have clients from all over
Mhm.
the United States, even some outside of the United States. And so that tension of like, I want them to come, they want to be here. The whole reason we really envisioned this event was for our clients who felt so lonely and isolated in different parts of the world. And Jess is funny because, like, I mean, I had never actually met her in person. Like, this was our first in-person
Yeah.
meeting, which was so fun because I'm like, oh, you're like one of my best friends. And I've never actually met you in person.
Yeah, it's wild.
Which is so, so fun. But I would love for you to speak on. We felt really, really important that it needed to be in person because there's something in person you just can't get virtually. And we thought if we made it virtual, then a lot of people wouldn't travel. And we honored the fact that people couldn't necessarily do that, but we also felt it was so important. So I'd love for you to speak. Do you feel like that was an adequate assessment to have people in person to receive, like, do you feel like you wouldn't have gotten what you got just online?
Yes, 100,000%. Yeah, I definitely needed to be in person. I think that was so smart for you guys to keep it in person. And it pushed me out of my comfort zone like 24 hours before I was begging my husband to come with me, not to like actually come to the event, but to drive me because I was afraid of driving in the snow. I grew up like no snow anywhere near my radius. So I was kind of terrified to drive 7 hours in the snow, and I was completely safe and it was totally fine. But it pushed me out of my comfort zone, number one, to like go be in person and leave my city and my town. But also, there's just a presence when you're physically in person with someone, and that like is unparalleled. And also like I do remember a few takeaways from the speakers, but my biggest takeaways are from the table conversations and how it felt to have those conversations. And that's not something that you can create. It's not something that can at least easily be created virtually, or is like there's not the same level of depth. Like people were just so honest and vulnerable and real. And I think that's way harder to do virtually. And so it just like created a really unique, special atmosphere that I've never experienced elsewhere, to be there physically in person with strangers. Like it was such a mix of like people at the table, somewhere local, somewhere far, some were friends, some were not. So I didn't feel like I was alone. Of course, it's scary to go out of town and go to an event alone, but I was greeted immediately when I went, and it was easy to find a table and somewhere to sit. And everyone that I met was so beyond kind and willing to share like the deepest parts of their hearts with complete strangers. So it was really special.
That's sweet. And because that was one of our goals, as we've talked about in previous episodes, we kind of had three main goals for Radiant, and one was obviously to bridge the gap, I guess, between faith and wellness and bring those together as we think that they should be together. That's how they're designed. It is hard to tease those out, but in our world, they have been. It's like faith's over here, wellness is over here. But to bridge that gap and how we can do that in a way that honors God, and then to bring community to women. And so that's why we intentionally did have people at tables. And I just love hearing how women were so vulnerable and opened up. And like you said, just like shared the deepest parts of their hearts. I love that happened, because we didn't get to really, we get
Participate
to
in that.
hear about it. And we could tell, like I could sense and tell and feel that is what was going on. But to hear the feedback afterwards is just been such a blessing. And then thirdly, to leave people looking to Jesus more. That's always the ultimate goal. So I just love to hear these stories about how the community and connection was made. So, okay, so then we have Ange with us, and Ange has a different perspective too, because she actually she was a little bit of our kind of planning, part of our planning committee, but then she was a volunteer there. And so Ange was serving at the event. She helped to make the food leading up to the event. But we also, Em and I, when we were searching for different venues and different places, we wanted a place where our volunteers could also be poured into as well. And where our volunteers weren't super separate and isolated and couldn't hear any of the speakers. And so I think that the space at the cannery allowed for that. And can you, just tell us who you are, where you live, and then also, of course, we know that you did this because I asked you, but yeah, just some of your thoughts and expectations leading up to it, and even as we were planning and preparing, and Ange helped us to set up, as Jill mentioned. Yeah, it was in a building. It was kind of, I would describe it as like an industrial type feel, but we really wanted it to feel homey, and we wanted it to feel not cold, because it was the end of January and there's snow. So we didn't want it to feel cold, both temperature wise, but also just, how you feel when you walk in a room. You want it to feel warm and inviting. And so Ange had a huge part too in helping us to make it feel homey. So yeah, can you fill us in a little bit on that, Ange?
Yeah. So I'm Angela. Ange is what people call me.
Sorry.
No, it's great. I am local from Morton too, and Em and I go back quite a ways now.
Yeah. And I was even
started-
thinking, as Britt was like introducing you, we had talked last time with Em Kresnica that her and I had been at a similar event, of just a worship event. We figured out 4 years ago, almost to the day. For those who watched that episode, you would remember us talking about that at the cannery. And Ange was actually my friend that went with me to that event. And so definitely came full circle for Ange too. But I just thought that was fun.
Yeah. Yeah. So was a client of Em's and then become dearest friends. And just traveled and journeyed a lot of our health journeys together. And that's not just physical, as we all know here, that's spiritual, mental, emotional. And so it's just, I was thinking as I was listening to all of you guys, like healing needs to happen in community. And when you try to do it isolated, it's such a different experience and it's hard. And I think like we get ideas from each other, we learn from each other, we support each other. Like there's just so much that can happen through community and doing it together. And I feel like that's what this event did, is it like it bridged that gap for so many people because like, and I know I'm jumping ahead here a little bit, but I'll forget if I don't share this now. Um, but I just feel like, we are struggling with our own health thing here or here or here, wherever it, whatever perspective and realm that it's in. And we can feel so alone and we can feel so isolated in that. But I think when like you start talking to others and you're like, oh my goodness, like you struggle with X, Y, and Z too. Like, wow, I thought I was alone in that. And here's some things that I've tried. And it's like, I think my expectation going into it was that the Lord, and in my prayer over everyone too, was that the Lord would really meet everyone personally. Because you can't take away everything from any event. Like our brains just can't absorb everything. But the Lord knows us all individually, right? And so he knows exactly like what we all need specifically to walk away from and to keep. And then I think like as we keep talking about it, we're reminded, oh yeah, like I forgot about that. And I forgot that person said that. And so I just love that he continues to do that through community. Um, but yeah, Britt, like you said, like my perspective was really unique and it was quite a privilege to have the perspective of being on the volunteer team and the prayer team leading up to it. And I went in with great expectation that the Lord would like meet everyone individually and that he would work just through all of it, through the speakers, through the food, through the decorations, through the venue, just through the community. Like there were so many avenues that he was working and that there was opportunity to just experience healing there, even that day. And so I thought that was really cool. Um, and it was fun to like help prepare the menu and the decorations because we were just like, we want this to be lavish. Like the Father's love for us is lavish. And we want people to know like healthy is extravagant. Like it's lavish. It's not boring. It's not lacking. Like there's so much flavor. There's so much that can go into it. And so that was really fun to be part of that. Just a unique privilege. And it was fun to like stand in the back, and especially like during worship and during the speakers. Like that's just a really, really special perspective that we got to have back there. So honored for that.
Yeah, that's awesome. And like Ange mentioned, we prayed so much leading up to this event, and so many people were involved in that. And as Em mentioned at the beginning, we came into this being obedient and just saying, okay, Lord, this is what you're calling us to. We don't even know what this looks like, but we're just going to follow you each step of the way as you continue to just show us our next step. But then I got to, when our volunteer team came together, and I got to see how invested our volunteers were in this, and they were not paid. Like none of this is like paid or anything. Like,
Pretty sure I had a couple of volunteers ask me, wait, I'm sorry, did we need to go purchase a ticket? Because if we did, I forgot about that. And I was like, oh no, we already counted you. You're fine. It just like the investment of like they're willing to financially invest in this because they believed so much in it.
yeah. And I was so blown away by that and so blessed by how much other people believed. I mean, as you heard everybody say today, like Jill and Jess, like you guys came because you wanted to support us in this. And then just the volunteer team and how much how much they believed in it too. That then carried me when I wouldn't say I was having second thoughts about it, but sometimes we're more on fire for things than others. And when I was feeling more burdened and bogged down by figuring out our talks and figuring, okay, what are we going to talk about? God, I do not feel worthy to do this. But just knowing that there were so many other people that were invested in it and believed in it, that's, just like standing on the faith of others. I felt like I was doing that in a way, like standing on the confidence and faith of the volunteer team. So we're going to take a minute here and we're just going to take a little break. That will be the end of this episode. We'll do a second episode so we can ask maybe a couple more questions and just get a little bit more conversation and talk with our friends here a little bit more. So thank you guys for joining us for this episode. Stay tuned and we will do another episode here to get a little bit more in depth about some of the things that they experience at Radiant and how that has continued to affect them afterwards.